First of all, it's an honor to meet you. In a few days, we are going to talk in Athens. We are going to have also personal talk, but it's an honor because I'm a big fan of you, big fan of Iron Maiden, big fan of Maiden United, and big fan of the early days. So it might sound somehow to you, but I love most the first two albums, and especially Iron Maiden album, the debut album, more than any other album of Iron Maiden. So for me, it's not only an honor, you're a legend to me, like Paul, Clive, and of course the rest of the band, Steve and Dave. So it's an honor. I welcome you on behalf of Greek fans, rock hard Greece, and we can't wait.
Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's start. I would firstly want to ask you about London and East End back in those days. So it was a bombed city by the Germans. Poor people, but hardworking and proud people back in those days, probably still the same. So how was it to grow up in East End? I think that you, Paul, Clive, and Steve were the East Enders. Is it true?
Yeah, well, I imagine so. It was more me, Steve, and Clive. I think Paul and Dave were over towards North London. I don't really. I think vaguely they were over North London, but yes, you are very, very correct. Funny enough, coincidence that this question is that yesterday I went to London. I was playing in London yesterday, and before the show in London yesterday, I had to do a 2.5 hour interview with the East London Heritage, going over where we first started playing in the East End of London, which was the Bridge House in East London. And the questions, funnily enough, just as you said, funnily enough, that the questions came up as what was it like growing up in the East End of London with working and before music, before you start playing music. And I had to go through all the history of me going to school. Living in the bombed houses where you had 2 or 3 houses that were still standing, and then just here you had a big debris come space, and then where the bombs dropped, and then you had other houses, and it was all around us. So there was no, there was electricity, but there was no hot water. And it was very, very hard in them days. Even before I dreamt of going into music, it was, you went to school, you had to walk to school because the transport was pretty poor. And yes, it was a very, very poor time regarding work and money. Yeah, correct.
It sounds and it seems to us like, because we refer, and you are coming to Greece, which is not like United States or a very rich country back in 80s, 70s, or even nowadays, it seems and it sounds like some smaller Greek cities or some villages that, toilets were out of the houses, people would have to go out to do their need. So poor people, but proud. That's how also Greeks entered the war, so against the Germans. So we didn't have money, we didn't have the facilities, but we stood there and we fought them hard, the Italians and the Germans. So that was the case also with the English when they, entered the war. So
we had exactly the same thing where the old houses which we lived in, there was 2 families. It didn't matter how many children, but there was 2 families living in one house. One family lived downstairs, one family lived upstairs. you shared the same front door, and you shared the toilet. Yes, that was at the back. The back of the yard wasn't a garden; it was just a mess. And yes, the toilet was at the end. It was pitch black. And you had to use the toilet outside. Yeah, it's amazing that you said that after the interview I did yesterday.
Yeah. So going now to the early days of Maiden, we have the debut album, which is, for me, in my opinion, the best debut album of all time. I'm a huge fan, and there are thousands like me out there. So we have the Iron Maiden album going to the fourth place in the charts of Britain, straight away and fast. And then we have October of 1980 that you go. I don't want you to repeat the reasons. There are reasons that you have already said in interviews about you and Rod Smallwood and all the things that happened back then. And then it's Adrian Smith coming. There are people out there that still say that Dennis Stratton was a great guitarist, but more rock guitarist, and then it's Adrian Smith, more a heavy metal guitarist that gave something else to the band, which is something that I personally disagree. I believe that you both are equally great. So, and that these people, the same people, probably say that you wouldn't fit anyway to the next albums of Iron Maiden. What do you personally say about it?
Well, first of all, I think that people's imagination runs very wild and very strange. We have to make this quite clear, because it seems that a serious question, or a question that needs answering in a truthful way. And the thing is that I was already playing in a band called Riversdown Boulevard, RDB, and we were signed to the same management as Status Quo. So during the early 70s, the mid-70s, we were on tour with Status Quo all over Europe, all over Scandinavia. We were playing to 60, 80,000 people a night on tour, and we were only young. So, you do your homework. RDB grew up in the Bridge House at Canning Town and West Ham, and you grow to your audience. And we did the clubs, we did the pubs, we did the marquee, we did the support slots with Mock the Hoople, with all the different bands that you worked with in the early 70s. But the big spot about that band was that the fact that we went on tour with Status Quo, who were massive, and played to 60 to 80,000 people. Now, RDB, Riversdown Boulevard, had a residency at the Bridge House in Canning Town, and we played there 2 nights a week. Now, every night or one night a week, 2 guys used to come down to the Bridge House, which I ended up finding out that it was Steve Harris and Dave Murray. And I got say hello, didn't know who they were, didn't know what band they were playing in, and because they were younger, they were a bit younger than me. So I had the experience of recording. I had the experience of touring in front of big crowds. The next time I spoke to them was in 1979. I get a telegram from Iron Maiden to go and meet Steve and Dave regarding joining Iron Maiden as a second guitarist and backing vocals. So I go down to a meeting with Steve and Dave at the Ship at Wardour Street near the Marquee. And the first thing I say to them is, I haven't heard any of your songs, but you have heard how I play. You know what I do. you know that I come from a twin guitar band, Harmony guitars, Wishbone Ash, them sort of bands that, and also Thin Lizzy that copied RDB with the Harmony guitars. We're talking early 70s. So they gave me a copy of probably the most valuable cassette tape there is in the world, which was the Soundhouse tapes. So I took the Soundhouse tapes home and I listened to it, and exactly what I thought was it's a one guitar solo, it's a rhythm guitar, and bass drums and vocals. Very raw, very punky, very exciting. Very, very exciting. And so when I listen to these songs, when I go to the rehearsal, it's not an audition, it's a rehearsal, because they want me to join the band. That's great. But I have to ask questions. So, Dave, I come from a harmony guitar band. I come from twin guitars, not one rhythm, one lead guitar. Dave was no problem. Dave was a lovely guy. He went along with everything that you suggested. Easygoing, very quiet. Steve, not a problem, but he said, give it, do what you can. So I started working on the songs that they have been playing for many years as a pub or club band, with the songs that now I'm going to add harmony guitars. I'm going to have harmony vocals. So what happened was that I started working as we went in the rehearsal, so Rothschild, harmony guitars, Prowler, harmony guitars, Phantom of the Opera, harmony guitars. Wow, all of a sudden, Dave, Steve, Pert, really, really excited now. But then I noticed that they didn't have a drummer. So I asked Steve and Dave, do you need a drummer? And they said, yes. We've signed a deal with EMI. We need to record the first album. And so we need a drummer. So I suggested two drummers. The first drummer, Johnny Richardson, everything was too loud because his hearing was defected and we didn't want to cause any problem with his hearing. Clive Burr, I've known for many years. I used to drink with him in a pub in East London. And so I said to him that Maiden are looking for a drummer. I took Clive to the rehearsals. He got the job. So then the band was complete. Then Paul Di'Anno comes in as the vocalist. But we didn't really need Paul in the early days because you're trying to get a new lineup, a new band that's all young, fresh, working on the songs that Maiden had played for quite a few years in the old style, not with the harmony guitars or the harmony bands. So it worked. We got, and then it got faster and faster. We started learning more songs, adding harmony guitars, adding vocals. And so that's where it started. Off we went to the Metal for Mothers tour with Prayer Mantis supporting us. And so on we go for the Metal for Mothers tour. So that's basically how the band got going to get that set that we needed, 1.5 hour set of songs from the first two albums that we needed to play live. So that's how the band started. And then we will carry on. As I say, that's how the band started before we recorded the first album.
Yeah. And talking about the lineup of Iron Maiden album and Killer's album, except of the fact that Dennis left and Adrian came in, you talked about Clive, the new drummer of the band, and then we have Nico. So there is always, like Paul Di'Anno or Bruce Dickinson, there are always debates between, let's say, most of the fans supporting Bruce, more, let's say, old school or early day fans supporting Paul, that Paul was, let's say, better. Paul was saying those days in interviews that generally the next years on interviews that he was the coolest frontman since Elvis. You know, you all seemed like the good guys. He was the bad guy, a handsome and cool guy, but he gave the more punky and raw and aggressive, let's say, vocalist style of play. And then we have Clive and Nico. What's your opinion about it? I mean, who was the better? Not with the most years in Iron Maiden, because it's obviously Nico and Bruce, but between Clive and Nico and Paul and Bruce, who would be your picks if you had to pick a drummer and a vocalist for Iron Maiden?
Right. Okay. So we go back again. So we record the first album, Iron Maiden. We record the first album. Clive is still playing drums. Clive's a great drummer. He's a good friend of mine. God bless him. I wasn't a fan of punky vocals. Paul did very well on the first album. As I say, I did a lot of work on the second album, Killers, but I didn't record it. But you got to remember that all the songs on the Killers album we were playing live anyway on the Metal for Mothers tour, so the songs were already there. They just needed polishing up and whatever. There was a conversation while we were on the Kiss tour. The fact that I spoke to Steve and Rod about vocals, and as I knew that the band were going to progress. I knew that they were going to be a big band, a huge band, whether I was there or not. It was already the fan base that Maiden had was massive, and we found that out supporting Judas Priest in the UK, and we also found it out in Europe when we supported Kiss. So Maiden already had a big fan base. My question to Steve was that how are you going to compete in America with the vocals of Dave Lee Roth, Sammy Hagar, Ronnie James Dio? How are you going to compete against Ian Gillan? How are you going to compete against these vocalists like David Coverdale that have this fantastic range of vocal? That was my question. There's probably no answer because Paul had a very low register of range on his voice. That's where the punk aggression comes from. I understand that. That's what makes the first album or the second album sound unique, because it was new, young, and punky. It was raw. So when you're now going into the next level of a band that's going to become huge, where do you go when it comes to the vocalist? You need a singer that's going to be able to compete against the range of Ronnie James Dio and Dave Lee Roth and David Coverdale. You need someone with a little bit more class, a little bit more vocal finesse, and also very talented as a lyricist, like writing the lyrics for the songs, certain songs that Bruce has written, compared to what Steve writes, whether Paul wrote any songs and Paul wrote some of the lyrics of some of the songs. But at the end of the day, you've got to look at a further project. You've got to look at how the band is going to progress. And the only way I could see it was that they needed a singer with a higher range, better vibrato, more operatic to be able to handle competing against the other vocalists at the top of their range in the world. And I weren't there at the time when Paul finished Killers. As I say, I did the work on Killers, but I never recorded it. But at the end of the day, whatever happened between Paul Di'Anno and the rest of the band, or Steve and Rod, that's their business. I wouldn't know, but I know that they made the right suggestion for getting Bruce in, because I know a lot of my friends who are singers that went for the audition to join Maiden after I left, and I think they made the right choice for Bruce, because he has just that perfect voice for them songs. He has the low register, he has the high register, he can hold a crowd with his personality. Sometimes I think Bruce talks too much, too long on some of the live shows. He was criticised for that last year in Milan when I went there. I was in Milan and he talked quite a lot. Sometimes I think the audience want to listen to more music than talking. And when Bruce gets going, fine, he has to do it. But as I say, Bruce was the best choice for that band to progress in them days.
Okay, and what about
regarding the drumming? So Clive, as I say, I took Clive into the band as a drummer. Clive did really well, because I know he's not a technical drummer. Clive isn't really technical like jazz, rock, fusion. He's not your light-handed. He's a heavy drummer, which was fantastic for Maiden in the early days. But I think you'll find that I worked with Nico before he joined Maiden with Lionheart. Nico came down to the studio and did some recordings, some demos with Lionheart well before he joined Maiden. And it was a joy to have him in the studio. The only problem was that we couldn't slow him down. He was just a nutter. He used to play so fast and very technical. Sorry, that's my phone. Very technical, very fast, but he used to speed up and we just couldn't keep up with him. But then he got the job with Maiden, which was perfect, I think, because a lot of the Maiden songs, like The Trooper and things like that, are so fast. Anyway, it suited Nico's playing. So again, I will say, to further their career, to compete against all the big boys out there, Nico was a fantastic choice. So I think that answers more than your question.
All right. And then I would like to ask you something else that, Lars Ulrich from Metallica has said many times in the past that Iron Maiden was the band that it was the most, influence for Metallica to start and record and do the same thing, follow the steps of Iron Maiden. And logically, he refers to the early days, the first album of Iron Maiden, chronically, and logically, he refers to the first album, the debut album. Also, James Hetfield from Metallica, he has included Paul Di'Anno in his favorite 3 or 5 singers of all time, vocalists of all time. And he also talks about the debut album of Iron Maiden. How they have also, by the way, made a very nice, in a Metallica way, cover of Remember Tomorrow song. So how good and lovely is for you to hear these guys from Metallica, maybe the most successful band in the world, judging by the sellings, and not only, and the fan base. How lovely and good is for you to listen these guys talking about Iron Maiden early days and Iron Maiden generally as a band, saying all that. What would you say? Because Iron Maiden never made a cover of a Metallica song, but Metallica did it.
Yeah, it's funny. I did hear this story many years ago that the drummer from Metallica had heard the first album, and he spoke to Metallica, or he spoke to the rest of the band and said, this is the future. This is the way to move on, with lots of riffs, fast riffs, and also different time changes and everything like that. I did hear that, which was a massive compliment, and I thank him. I don't know whether or not that made them record their albums differently. I don't follow Metallica, I must admit. I can't comment on people playing in bands that rate a singer. It's personal choice. I imagine Metallica probably wouldn't like Steve Perry from Journey, which I think is fantastic, and he sings fantastic rock ballads, and Journey is one of my favourite bands. So basically what I'm saying is James has his opinion on certain songs that he likes. I have my personal favourites, David Coverdale, Paul Rodgers from Free. Some of my favourite vocalists are all blues, very meaningful. They're not aggressive. I've listened to quite a lot of Metallica albums, and the vocals are very aggressive. The vocals are a lot like Paul Di'Anno, aggressive. That is not my kind of favourite singing. But for Metallica fans, yes, I imagine it is. And it just goes to show, because, as you say, if they are the biggest band in the world, then bloody hell, you can't wish for anything better. But I don't class the vocal as a singing voice, but I'm in a different vein of vocalist. I love melody. I love listening to David Coverdale sing Soldier of Fortune. I love Steve Perry singing the ballads and also the rock stuff. I love Bruce Dickinson singing certain songs, but I'm not a lover of aggressive vocals. But that's a personal choice. You can't ask a question saying, what do you think about him saying this about Paul Di'Anno? That's his choice. So I can't question the biggest band in the world about his choice of music. I have my own personal choice of music. And some of it's not heavy metal. Some of it is quite plain and easy going. But, yeah, I love Lou Gramm from Foreigner. The band Toto. I love the vocals of American rock bands that are AOR, rock, whatever you want to call it, same as we are in Lionheart with Lee Small. I'm not an aggressive vocal lover. So whoever chooses, he's in number 4 in his top list, that's fine. All I'm saying is, the question was, if Iron Maiden are going to progress in the world as a top rock band, you need a vocalist that's going to get to the high notes as well as the low notes. Luckily for James, and luckily for Metallica, they don't have to worry about that, because they write the riffs that suit their vocal. I can't criticise that, because they are a fantastic band, and as you say, the biggest band in the world.
Yeah. No, I agree to 95% of the vocalists that you said. They are my personal favorites too, apart of James Hetfield and Chris Cornell, who are two of my more, let's say, aggressive vocalists that I like. All the rest that you have already mentioned are in my top 10 for sure, along with Bon Scott, the only one that you haven't mentioned. All the rest that you've said are my personal favorites too. Coverdale and Lou Gramm and Steve Perry, Paul Rodgers from Bad Company, and all these guys.
Yes, it's a personal choice. It's personal what you want to listen to.
So one of my favorite.
Would you call Lemmy a vocalist from Motorhead?
No, but Lemmy is Lemmy.
It's aggression. It's aggressive vocal, and that's where the punk comes from. Yeah. Johnny Rotten, the Sex Pistols. That's where it comes from. I like melody. I like tuneful vocals.
Yeah. one of my favorite songs of all time, no matter the band, is Strange World. And I strongly believe that if Strange World, because, among Iron Maiden and heavy metal fans, it's an underrated song. Nobody mentions Strange World in the top 10 of Iron Maiden or top 20 of heavy metal songs. But Strange World, for me, if it was written, recorded, and played by a band like Scorpions, for example, or Whitesnake, it would be in the top 10, and all the world, no matter if we talk about a guy in India or an Eskimo in wherever, in Antarctic Sea, they would know Strange World, like they know Always Somewhere, Still Loving You, and Is This Love, and all these songs. So Strange World, in my opinion, my personal favorite songs, is a song like a super hit, could be a super hit like Nothing Else Matters and Unforgiven from Metallica. Everybody knows these songs. Why, in your opinion, Strange World is not in this list, and why probably Iron Maiden don't have, as a band, doesn't have a song like the songs that I have already mentioned, that everybody, from a kid to an old guy, an Eskimo, knows? Why do you think that happened?
I think the reason that was, I can't really say this is the reason, but I'm thinking that, well, if we start from the beginning, when we went onto the Metal for Mothers tour in '79, Steve and the band would always want a fast set. He wouldn't want anything slow, apart from Remember Tomorrow. I can't remember anything where you get your breath back. It was full on 100 mile an hour, up tempo. The whole set was up tempo. It was just full on from the minute you went on stage to the minute you finished. Strange World never got a look in regarding it's a ballad and it's slow. And I think the idea was from Rod or from Steve, it would slow. It would just bring the whole house, the venue down, and they wanted it up all the way through the set. So I'm guessing, but I think that's why that wasn't included when we first went out for the Metal for Mothers tour. Now, after the Metal for Mothers tour, we then went straight on to the Judas Priest tour. And what you've got to remember about a main headlining band compared to a support band is your set is cut in half. So basically, Metal for Mothers, full on, hour and 20 minutes, rock and roll, crowd go mad, no time to put in Strange World. When we come to do the Judas Priest tour, no time for Strange World, because the last thing you want to put in a set when you're supporting a big band is a slow song, unless it's a hit single, cracker, whatever. But it's full on, 100 mile an hour, up tempo, the whole set. Basically, we done the first album with maybe a couple, I don't know, I can't remember, it was so long ago, but there were all the fast ones in there. And Remember Tomorrow, I think, was included because it had a fast, different time changes, which features the band's ability for time changes. When we finished the Judas Priest tour, we went back, we did the album, recorded the album, and then I'm working on Strange World, which I thought, wow, this is a bit of me, because I come from a band with RDB, like melodic. It's not 100%, 100 mile an hour all the way through. This is a bit of respite. This is lovely. And then the next minute, we're on the Kiss tour. Again, 45-minute slot. You're only allowed 6, 7, 8, 9 songs. So Strange World gets left behind again. And now, this is a true story. I haven't played Strange World live once with Iron Maiden in the 2 years we did the tours with Kiss and everything else. And then when I started working abroad, in Europe, especially in Italy, with the Iron Maiden conventions. So now we come forward from LIONHEART, Prayer Mantis, we come forward to 2002, and I get a message from Italy asking me, would I come to Italy and play with an Iron Maiden tribute band called the Clairvoyants, and play the Iron Maiden set that we did as a support, which was 45 minutes. And I said, yeah, fantastic. But we don't just have to play for 45 minutes. We can do an hour. We can do an hour and 10 minutes, because that was the set we did on the Metal for Mothers tour. But let's pick the best songs. So basically what happened was I went to Italy in 2003-04, worked with the Clairvoyants, absolutely fantastic. No inclusion of Strange World. Everything was full on. So the Clairvoyants would go on stage, they would do 45-minute slot from their songs, and then I would go on and do a 45-minute, an hour, and that was time up. That was the curfew. So no inclusion of Strange World. And it was only when I went back and forward to Italy, and I was working, I think it was a band called Children of the Damned, but it could have been another band before that. It could have been the Clairvoyants at the end of before they split up. That we were at a show one night, and I did a meet and greet in Italy. Don't know what the venue was. We did a meet and greet, and the fans asked, why you don't play Strange World? And I listened to the fans. I say, because it slows the whole set down, it brings everything, and we have to, when you've got the audience up and jumping, all of a sudden you stop. They did, and all of a sudden you got to build it up again. So, and they went, no, Dennis. And they started telling me these stories where people had died and they'd played this song at their funeral. People saying that they played this song of people lying in hospital. They gave me so many positive reasons why this song should be put into the set. So I can't remember how many years ago this was. It's got to be a good 7, 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And so I said to the band in the dressing room, do you know this song? And they said, yes. I said, well, let's do it. And it got to a point where I don't speak Italian, and, whether they understand English. And so we went on stage and we got 3 or 4 or 5 songs through the set. And the singer in Italian says, the people, you speak English, and that big cheer, Dennis has to. And I went and said on the mic, I said, listen, I'm going to play this song for the very first time here in Italy with this band that I've never, ever played live in my life. Not even with Iron Maiden, not even on a tour, anything. It's the first time. I said, the reason we are going to play this song is because you, lovely people in the hall, you've asked me to play this song because it means so much to you. And we played it, and there were tears, there were cheers, screams. It was absolutely fantastic. And that is the truth. That is the whole story. And so we put it back in the set, and I told the same story every night. We have just put this song in the set. We did it last night because you people have asked me, and they heard through the grapevine, through social media, that it was because the fans felt so strongly about this song that we did it. And now we do it with every band every band that I play with, every band in Italy, in Germany, in Holland, France, everywhere we go, we do Strange World.
That's one of the reasons that I am waiting the hell out of this live in Athens, Strange World and Remember Tomorrow. So because as you said, there is a list for my funeral. I hope in 150 years from now. But anyway, I have a personal list, and Strange World and Remember Tomorrow are of course in the list. So what means, what these two songs mean in my heart, nobody can change it, no matter if it's a fast tempo, a ballad, slow, whatever. Strange World and Remember Tomorrow are two of my favorite 10 songs of all time. So now going back to 79, you talked a lot with Dave, and you personally have brought the guitar harmonics, as in the American accent, the harmonies anyway, to the band. Some people say it's guitar phrases, so it's like when guitars are talking to people, so guitar phrases. Then we had with you and Dave, we had, let's say, twin solos, when both guitar players are soloing together at the same time. You have contributed a lot to Iron Maiden, and as you said, Thin Lizzy and maybe other bands too. What would you say about the harmonies, and which bands, let's say, and which guitarists were your influences in order to start playing like that and add it to Iron Maiden?
Okay, right. First off, with me and Dave, when you say soloing at the same time, no, that never happened, because you can't have. I don't play in a band where you've got two guitarists playing solos at the same time, because it's just clashes all the time. You may get two guitarists playing solos where you do a question and answer, where one guitarist will play one phrase, he would answer with another phrase, then you would play. But I wouldn't ever play harmony. I would never play solos together, because they would clash.
Okay.
Getting back to the harmony guitars, I first, even while I was learning to play the guitar when I was like 18, 19, I used to follow Wishbone Ash. And the love of the band, that you could hear all the harmony guitars. And if you're a guitarist or a musician, you would know the difference between one guitar and two guitars playing harmony guitars. It's a melody, it's the harmony guitars can play the melody of the chorus before the chorus is actually sung. With Wishbone Ash, they played loads of different harmonies all the way through their albums. I used to follow them as a youngster around the UK, watching all their shows. And that's what rubbed on me. That's where I learned. And with two guitarists in RDB, with me and Dave, with Riversdown Boulevard, we used to play, every song would be a harmony. And then when we started writing our own material, we started with the harmony guitars. That was the difference between, as I said, the Soundhouse tapes, is that when you hear a song from the Soundhouse tapes, it's got one rhythm guitar, one lead guitar. So they're separate. So basically what I did, as I said earlier, was you bring in this style of playing just to make the song sound bigger, the production sounds bigger. So you're playing harmony guitars in the middle eight of Phantom of the Opera, or you're doing the harmony guitars of the middle part of Running Free. You're doing harmony. It just makes the song sound fuller with two guitarists playing harmonies at the same time, perfectly in time, phrasing everything. Brian May does it on his own with all his technology. He was fantastic. But we used to do it, and I've worked with LIONHEART for many years doing the same thing with the harmony guitars. I've done the same thing with Praying Mantis for 15 years. It's all harmony. And the good thing about it is if you get a middle part of a song, it doesn't have to be this manic guitar solo that's going off like 100 miles an hour, a million notes an hour and shredding. It doesn't have to be that. It can be two guitars playing a whole melody that you'd probably hear on a film script or some kind of James Bond theme or some kind of rock film, that the harmony guitars, they sing a melody without a vocal, and it's so nice to listen to. So I would always introduce that to any band I played with, even with Lionheart and Brown Mantis. And the good thing about with Maiden was that they liked it, and it goes to show that it stood the test of time, because throughout all their albums, Yannick, Adrian and Dave are still playing the harmony guitars. So at least I brought something to the band that meant something, and it lasted,
Yeah. So, and a little bit, let's say, not spooky question, but interesting question. In your opinion, do bands, great bands like Iron Maiden, Scorpions, and generally the older bands, let's say from 70s and 80s, do they have to prolong their, let's say, the concerts, go on writing, making new albums, making a lot of live concerts, or up to a point, after a point, in your opinion, do they have to, let's say, quit their career and remain legends and give, let's say, the ability to newer bands to show up? So, for example, Iron Maiden and other bands that I have already mentioned, like Scorpions, are more, the members more than 65, 70 years old, let's say, and they still play a lot, no matter the money they have, no matter the albums they make. So they still make new albums, make concerts. What's your opinion? Do they have to prolong their concerts or quit and remain legends? Legends they are, either way, no matter if the new album is very good or not.
Well, that to be honest, that's quite an easy question to answer, because as you know, not so much for Metallica or Iron Maiden. Let's leave them aside at the moment. But you mentioned other bands, so let's mention other bands. And you asked about prolonging their playing career live. And the reason they have to do that is because many years ago, when they were all earning millions of pounds or millions of euros, they were allowed to buy big houses with swimming pools and lots of cars, and all become men of leisure. So they would release an album like the Eagles, Scorpions, any band you want to mention like you have, not the Eagles, but the Rolling Stones. They would live on their royalties. They would get used to living on their royalties of millions of pounds in big houses in different countries and get very lazy. So basically, they're earning lots of money. They're all millionaires. So they don't have to play live. They just record an album and then sit on their ass and don't do anything. Let the album sell, get another few £1 million in and top up the savings and live a life of a millionaire. Unfortunately, what come down to bite their ass was the fact of streaming, downloading. All of a sudden, these bands, the Eagles, the Rolling Stones, anyone you want to mention, release an album, and then they look at how much money the album earned that year, and it's, wow, they sold a lot of albums, but they didn't earn any money. Why is that then? Because people were streaming them, people were downloading them, and they're not earning any money. So what are we going to do? Well, what I suggest you do, they say, is you get the band rehearsing and you get out on tour. So when their savings, living the life of a millionaire, they have to pay out a lot of money each month, each week, whatever. And some business deals they had may not have done well, so they've lost money on the business deals. So all of a sudden, they said, people, their management, their solicitors, their lawyers have said, listen, if you don't get out and work, you're not going to earn any money because your albums are not selling as well as they were years ago because everyone's getting your album for nothing. So basically, the Stones are on tour. The Eagles come back after 10 years, 15 years. Reason being, it's not because they love the music, it's because they're getting skinned. They're losing money and they want to stay living in a life of a millionaire. So it goes without saying. I'm not talking about Iron Maiden or Metallica or all the bands that don't have to tour because they're already millionaires. It's not a problem. But I think Metallica and Maiden tour because they love the music. They love the tours. They can't sit at home. They get bored. I spoke to Steve Harris 2 days ago, and I even said my words to Steve is, you never sit down. You're always working. British Lions, Iron Maiden, tennis, football. Steve never rests. And, I said to him, Steve, I was on the phone to him for an hour. And I said, Steve, you've got to get he can't. He's a workaholic. I love him to death. He doesn't stop writing songs, British Lions. He doesn't stop working Maiden. He'll come off a 24-hour flight and go straight in the studio because he's a workaholic. He's a perfectionist. So that guy is a machine. I know we both love West Ham as well. That's part of our childhood. But you got to look at these bands that have been used to living a life of a millionaire for many years, and all of a sudden, Bruce Dickinson said, I've done many interviews for Lionheart for the new album, and every interview, the guy says to me on the meeting, on the interview, hey Dennis, are you going to tour with Lionheart? And the words of Bruce Dickinson is that he made it quite clear, if you don't buy the album, bands can't tour. If you don't buy the whole product, the whole hard copy, you don't buy the artwork, you don't buy the history of the band, you don't pay that 30 quid, whatever it costs for the album, don't expect to see the band play live because they've got no money. So as far as Lionheart go, we can't tour because we don't earn any money from the album that we've just give away to people that download it and stream it. Maiden don't have that problem, thank God. Nor does Metallica. Nor does a lot of bands, as you say, Scorpion. They've earned their money. So if they want to do a tour, they'll do it, but they still have their money.
I've lost
millionaire. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
It might not be the truth. It might not be how it actually is, because I know Mick Jagger and the rest of them are multi-millionaires. They might do it for the love of touring. But a lot of bands would not be on the road now selling merchandise and bums on seats unless they needed the money.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I don't know.
So, which was your favorite riff from Iron Maiden and the song you would never get tired of playing live or listening to?
Well, I would say a lot of them, because a lot of the riffs are quite heavy. Phantom is my favourite. The Phantom is my favourite because there's lots of riffs in it and there's lots of time changes. When I first had to learn the song, it tested me a little bit because getting used to the time changes and all that, it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you motivated. As Rothschild. There's a lot of songs on the Maiden album and also on the Killers album that I worked on. Like Transylvania. Lots of good riffs, but Phantom's my favourite.
Yeah. So there is there are people who say that if there is a song that is representative of the Iron Maiden discography, and one of the best songs of all time in heavy metal is Hallowed Be Thy Name. But in my opinion, equally to Hallowed Be Thy Name is Phantom of the Opera. So if I had to my kids, for example, to represent Iron Maiden and play them a song so that they can learn the music of Iron Maiden, what is what kind of band is Iron Maiden, probably I would push the start button to Phantom of the Opera first and then Hallowed Be Thy Name. What's your thoughts about it?
I've no idea. I didn't play on Hallowed Be Thy Name, so
but you know the song.
I know the song, but I've never played it, so I wouldn't know. I know the song very well. I love the song, but no. As for me playing the riffs, I can only comment on the riffs that I played, not songs that I didn't play. So
okay. So do you read comments from the fans about you and your time at Iron Maiden, or your interviews on social media or on YouTube? Do you read the fans' comments?
No. I get lots of comments and posts on Facebook, which I always answer. And what I've found is if you clear up certain questions from fans, they're very appreciated. They're very happy. The fact that you might get someone from Wikipedia that is talking absolute bollocks and they don't understand what the question is, and they start telling people that Dennis Stratton did this and Dennis Stratton did that, and it's absolute rubbish. So every now and again, I will go on, for instance, Wikipedia, and I'll try and correct something, or on Facebook or Instagram, I will try and correct something, or if I'm asked something, yes, I do try my best. And when I do a lot of meet and greets and interviews live with people in the afternoon at the shows that I do in Europe with Maiden United or with the Maiden tribute stuff, I always try and answer the questions truthfully to people. When they shout a question out, I will answer it truthfully, and I never exaggerate, and I never go around the subject, because I want them to know the truth. It's happened a few times where I've had to put people right. There was a thing on Facebook last week where someone decided to put this post on Facebook saying that Dennis Stratton tried to change the sound of Iron Maiden and tried to change the sound for more like Queen. He tried it on Phantom of the Opera. This person that's putting this post on hasn't got a clue what he's talking about, but he decided to think to impress Iron Maiden fans. I don't know why, but he's talking this rubbish about he did this, he tried this, he tried that. So I decided to answer it. And I said, absolute bollocks. What you've just said is rubbish. Anyway, he then started talking. I said, so then I answer it completely. And then I say, first of all, let's get this right. Let's straighten this out. Get the truth. I've never tried to change the sound of Iron Maiden because the sound was already there. It was punk, raw, aggressive. That's how it was. All I did was add harmony guitars and harmony vocals. Didn't change the sound of Iron Maiden, just made it the production bigger and better. not so raw. Let's not forget, it's analog recording. You don't want to change the sound. That's what got them all their fans. It'd be stupid to change the sound. But he's referring to Phantom of the Opera. So then I answer. We were in the studio one day recording the first album. We'd finished work for the day, but there was loads of free time, and myself and the engineer were still in the studio because I always sat with the engineer in the control room talking and adding parts with the harmony guitars, little parts that we had to do. And we did a couple of bits on Phantom of the Opera. So the song is up, ready to go. And I said to the engineer, I've always wondered what this song would sound like as a Bohemian Rhapsody sort of production. And we're talking. It's not, we're doing this for real, we're talking. And he said, well, we've got free time. Let's have a laugh. Let's enjoy ourselves. See, what would you do? And so we got to the middle part, and I started adding harmony guitars and little parts to the song. And then he went, oh, that's weird. It sounds great. Sounds like Brian May. Sounding great. And then I said, how about the vote? You haunt me, you top it. How about you stand all the choruses? So I went in the studio and so I started singing all the different harmonies, which I used to do. And we're sitting in the control room, we're playing it back. And yes, it sounded like Queen. And it was great, just laughing, free time, couple of beers. And there was this, you told me, you're talking me back and just that. And wow. So what we didn't know was behind us, Rod Small had come into the control room, and he was listening at the back, and we're laughing. He went absolutely crazy. What? Yeah, I went, well, Rod, we're only messing around. So I put this story. It was messing around. It was a joke. There's no way these tracks are going on the album. We were just experimenting and seeing what it would sound like. And we were joking and laughing. And Rod said, get rid of them. No problem, Rod. And the engineer just wiped, I hope, he wiped all the tracks. So it was back to normal like we were doing. So I said that on Facebook, being truthful. This guy comes back on Facebook and he says, there's always two sides to every story.
Yeah.
It's not so much you telling the truth. It's not you did it, is why you did it. And I just answered, because I could.
Yeah.
End of, because I could. Free time in the studio. I had the freedom of the studio with the engineer, and because I could. I could have done anything in that studio that day. It didn't matter because we had the free time. It was never going to change the sound of Iron Maiden. And that's what you got to make sure that these idiots out there, and some people, fanatics, they need to know the truth. Simple.
Though, even if it's one of my favorite songs of all time, I would love to listen to a, let's say, more operatic, like the Bohemian Rhapsody version. But, because it's a Phantom of the Opera, by the way, it's opera. But anyway, so which song is...
Don't forget, I did ask Steve Harris permission that if I did record Phantom of the Opera, the way I wanted to do it all them years ago, as you say, an operatic version with like Bohemian Rhapsody, would he mind if I did it for charity? And Steve said no. So maybe with Lionheart, with the voices that we have in Lionheart and the production of Steve Mann in the studio, you never know. We might actually record it with Lionheart for a charity, maybe single, who knows, for Christmas. I don't know, but I would love to do it. That's from the heart.
Oh my God, I will say. So three words. So, which song is your guilty pleasure? The one that you sing in bath or alone, and you're afraid of others knowing about it. Which would be your guilty pleasure?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Which song is your metaphorically, guilty pleasure? The one that you sing in bath or alone, when you're alone, and you are afraid, let's say, of people knowing about it.
Oh, what, a Maiden song or any song?
No, any song.
A guilty pleasure?
Guilty.
Yeah, I don't know.
Your secret, let's say, favorite song. It could be from a different genre. It could be from, I don't know.
It's not a secret. It's not a secret. After Gary Moore, still got the blues. It's certain guitarists that influenced me big time. It has to be Steve Lukather. It's not a secret, believe me. Steve Lukather has been one of my biggest influences since the 70s. I've followed Steve Lukather for many, many years, and I love the stuff he does on the Toto albums. The solos that his feel and his vision is just above all. Some of the film scores that he plays guitar on, big films, Celine Dion and things like that. And when he plays with things like Chicago, but my biggest influence with Steve Lukather is his solo album. And if you want to listen to, it's not fast, it's not a million miles an hour, but the best solo I've heard for many, many years, and it's not guilty secret, it's fact from me, is Never Walk Alone by Steve Lukather. And if you Google and if you look at Lost Lobotomies, which is one of the bands he had with Simon Phillips many years ago, if you listen to Never Walk Alone, whether it's live or on the studio album, that solo has got to be one of the best meaningful solos that hits the spot. If you listen to it properly, it blows you away. It is, there are thousands of solos that I love. The end bit of Rosanna when he blows away and it's one take with the Les Paul with Toto. Rosanna, absolutely phenomenal. Some of the stuff he's done with Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, it's just endless. Some of the stuff he's done with the Tubes. His soloing is just impeccable. And it's that feeling, he can adapt from doing a heavy metal song with Van Halen to going with Quincy Jones and doing something so melodic. It's his style. That's why he's such a fantastic session guy. And but Never Walk Alone, I can listen to that over and over again.
All right.
One of them songs.
And who's your favorite non-rock or metal artist? Non-rock or metal?
My favorite artist?
Your favorite artist from not rock or heavy metal music? Rock and metal.
The Eagles have always said that's what got me in trouble with Rod Smallwood, listening to the Eagles in 1979, 1980 on the Kiss tour. But there's no excuse for perfect vocals, perfect harmonies, which I love. Listen to the Eagles, the harmonies they've got. Some of that, you can sit indoors or sit in a bar or in your car, and you can play 2 hours of the Eagles songs. And I dare anyone to say to me that they don't sing along with the choruses, the harmonies of the Eagles. Don Henley's vocal, wow. David Coverdale's vocal, Soldier of Fortune. That song's going to be played at my funeral because that's me. When David Coverdale sings Soldier of Fortune, the feeling that goes from his vocal into the mic is just phenomenal. The meaning, the feeling, and that to me, Soldier of Fortune, you know, you travel around the world, you're a soldier of fortune. There's, to me, some of the, I know people love rock and roll. Mick Jagger has never had that voice for me that was meaningful. It was blues, it was rock and roll. The Beatles, wow. Commercial love songs. Every song you, again, like the Eagles, I dare anyone to drive along a road or sit in a bar and not sing along with the Beatles. It's that personal choice of your favourite music, and it doesn't mean to say that you're not a heavy rock guitarist, but you're still allowed to listen to other kinds of music, you know, jazz or whatever. You know, you're still allowed. But yeah, they're my favourites. I can't stop. You can't stop listening to them. They cheer you up and they make you cry.
Yeah,
brilliant.
So going back time, would you ever create a band like Maiden United, going, you know, acoustically, like covering with a acoustic way the greatest songs from the greatest bands? Would you personally ever create a band like Maiden United?
No, because that idea from Joey, I've seen a few other bands that have done the same thing, doing Maiden stuff like that. But no, with Joey Brewers, when he started this with Rue Jolly in Tilburg from Within Temptation, when they had a little bit of time free, they told me the story that they'd always wanted to record their favourite bands' songs, like classical come acoustic. And when he did that, he hit the spot. He was he found something that was unique. And I'm just glad to be part of the project that I've been with many years now. And listening to the songs played differently, playing the songs with the different arrangements. No, I wouldn't dream of doing that. I'm happy with Lionheart. As I say, the new album is out now, The Grace of a Dragonfly, and the reviews that we've got for Lionheart are, again, unbelievable. We've never had so many brilliant reviews. Whether or not people will buy it or stream it, again, I will say, if you stream it and you don't buy it, then Lionheart won't be able to tour. And people say to me all the time, will Lionheart be coming on tour now the album's out? Well, you tell me, you know, can we tour? Will you buy the album? Will you give us some kind of return for a great album to give us the opportunity to tour? But as Bruce said, if you don't buy the album, don't expect to see the band play. But no, I would never dream of doing it. Joey's got that spot on, I think.
And we're very happy about it, because they do great versions of the songs. Great. Yeah. Even people who are out of, you know, heavy metal, so fans that, music fans, but not heavy metal fans, can easily listen to the songs and dream and travel while listening to all the songs of Maiden United. They are so unique, so unique. I would like to ask you something about a guy that you have really, let's say, protected in a way, and I'm talking about Blaze Bayley. When we had the talks, when, you know, there were the talks about entering of at Hall of Fame, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Blaze Bayley was out of the entrance of the Iron Maiden members, you have said that loudly, that he should be in, like the rest of the band members. And I would really, because, you know, he's a great guy too, a good singer. He had two, for many people, really good albums with Iron Maiden, for many others not, but that's a different case. What would you say about Blaze Bayley? And going back to the departure of Bruce Dickinson, there were many names, you know, like Doogie White. People were talking about Michael Kiske from Halloween, but they were saying that he couldn't join the band because he was not British. What would you say about Blaze Bayley's choice from Steve Harris and Smallwood and the band, and about the entrance at Hall of Fame and what you said about it? What would you say about Blaze Bayley generally?
I think I've got all of that. Well, it's not for me to comment on who they auditioned. Guy from Halloween, I wouldn't have a clue. I know they auditioned Dougie White and Damien Wilson and other people that I've worked with Maiden United and with Praying Mantis and other bands. But hold on, let me think. Right. So basically, I've never met Blaze. I saw him on a program on TV last year, and he's a lovely guy. I've never met him. I've never had the opportunity to speak to him. When Bruce was going through some kind of problem with the band, I've no idea what went on. Same as when Adrian left, I've no idea what went on. Basically, I think I was too busy with Lionheart at the time, or Praying Mantis. It would have been one of the bands I was busy with. So I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. I don't know what the internal problems were. I don't know the politics of it, so I can't comment. I know that, Yannick came in regarding Adrian, and they got Blaze in. Now, Blaze contributed quite a lot to Iron Maiden. I'm not sure whether or not he had the right voice for Iron Maiden. I'll be totally honest with you, and this is hand on heart. I couldn't tell you what albums that Blaze did with Iron Maiden because I was too busy in them years. I never bought the album. I knew that they had a lineup change, and I knew they had a vocal change. But I didn't hear anything that Blaze did with Iron Maiden because I was too busy. All I know that he was there for quite a while. Was it 2 or 3 albums he did?
Two albums, X Factor and Ritual 11.
Okay, thank you. So, and Blaze he wrote some of the songs. He was a big asset to Iron Maiden. But then when we got the nominations for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, personally, I was over the moon. It was something I'd achieved out of all the years of hard work, 40-odd years of hard work, including with RDB. It was 50 years. But, let's talk about from Maiden, 1979, it was 40 years. And I was absolutely over the moon, happy that I'd been nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I saw it. I had phone calls and text messages. People, you're going to go and get your dinner suit and your bow tie. You're going to go and receive your Rock and Roll Hall of Fame award. Yes. And then when I read the notes of the nominations and the members, I thought it was very strange that Blaze wasn't included. I remember making my point clear that I thought it was sad that he was left out. But then I hear the rules and regulations of these people that run the Rock and Roll Hall. I don't understand why it's called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when you've got jazz, rap, funk music, female singers that sing rap, or men. I've no idea why it's called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't know. Perhaps someone will explain it to me. But what I found sad about Blaze was he's such a nice guy. And when I found out the reasons being the rules and regulations of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is you had to be in the band at a certain time, and there had to be so many years distance from being in the band or being a member of the band, and the years that went through, you had to have so many years. And whereas Blaze joined the band at a certain year, it never qualified that he was in that year, and it wasn't until the nomination, he didn't have enough years service or whatever you call it, which is bollocks anyway. He was with the band for 2 albums. He did immensely well, lovely man. And so, yeah, I felt sad. I'd love to meet Blaze. To be honest, I'd like to do a gig with him, with some of the old Iron Maiden tribute songs with her. But I've never had the opportunity. I don't really know him. But I do feel sad that when you've worked with a band and he put a lot of input into the band for them years, why should he be left out? So, yeah, that's the answer to your question.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And now that we are reaching the end, I don't want to make you tired after 1 hour of talking. I wanted to ask you about Black Sabbath. For many people they are the fathers, let's say, of heavy metal. So Black Sabbath has changed. They have changed a lot of vocalists. They had Martin, Ozzy, Dio, Ian Gillan. Have you ever, first of all, have you ever been a real fan of Black Sabbath and their albums and music, or no?
Okay.
And which Black Sabbath do you prefer?
Good question. Okay, what you got to remember is that I was a little bit older than the rest of the guys in Iron Maiden when we joined. I think I'm 5 or 6 years older than them. So what you got to remember is the original heavy metal, the new wave of heavy metal, not the new wave of heavy metal, the old wave of heavy metal. I grew up with them in the late 60s. So it would have been Led Zeppelin. It would have been Deep Purple, Black Sabbath. A lot of Budgie. A lot of the old bands that basically some of them didn't actually get anywhere. But the bands like Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Spooky Tooth. If I could go back many years, I'd remember a lot of the bands I was listening to. Grand Funk Railroad. It was in the late 60s. So getting back to the metal, I learned to play guitar when I was 16, listening to the first Led Zeppelin album. I had a record player where I'd put the album on, and where I was sitting learning the riffs, I'd have to move the needle, so you scratch the record, so that the record jumped. So then I had to put coins on the top of the needle to hold the weight down on the record so it didn't jump. And I would sit there with the guitar trying to learn. Then come along Deep Purple. Wow, Deep Purple and rock and things like that. And there you go. So I grew up with the old school. And then when, Black Sabbath, I used to go to the Bridge House every night of the week to watch Power Pack. And there was a band called Freedom that played on the Bridge House on a Wednesday night. Roger Saunders and Walt Monahan and Bobby Harris. And there we were in the Bridge House. I think we were 18, 19. And watching Power Pack, that's how I learned to play, watching Terry Newman every night, playing the guitar, and I'd go home and play. And all of a sudden, Freedom, that played there on a Wednesday night, they get a support slot for the Royal Albert Hall with Black Sabbath. And I'll never forget it. It was the only one time I think I saw Black Sabbath back in them days. In the early 70s, everyone from East London, from the Bridge House, we all went up to London by bus or train, and we watched Freedom support Black Sabbath. And I'll never forget the night with Black Sabbath, because they were so heavy. I love their early stuff, when they so out to lunch. But all I remember was the PA they had wasn't the big wide sound like they have nowadays right across it too. This is old stuff, analog stuff. They had like small cabinets, but they were placed all over. It was like loads of them all over. There wasn't just one bank of speakers. There was like these 4x12s or 8x12, but they were positioned all over the stage at the Albert Hall. And I always remember that. And it's like going through your childhood. It's like what I grew up with. I wasn't a total lover of Black Sabbath regarding the way the songs, the way they were written and things like that with the Devil and Black Sabbath. But the funny thing was watching different vocalists joining the band. I always get this thing about vocalists, right? We had it with, I won't mention any names, but we've had it with a few bands where the vocalist will join a band to progress his career. He will join a band to go that stepping stone up to get noticed. And that's how I feel about Black Sabbath. I found that the singers like Ronnie was fantastic, absolutely brilliant vocalist. But before he joined Black Sabbath, he was still trying to get up that next step. And by joining Sabbath, wow, everything went straight up there, brilliant. And I find that with a lot of bands, that singers, they join bands to further their career. And that's what I found about, and I'm glad he did it. I'm glad he did because, what happened with Ronnie was disaster with his health and everything, but what a vocalist. And I'm so glad that he did that with Black Sabbath. Otherwise, a lot of fans wouldn't have heard him, wouldn't have known who he was. So, yeah, I've always been a lover of the old stuff. And as I say, Deep Purple, to do them songs all them years ago, Burn and the early stuff as well. Wow, just unbelievable. Yeah, brilliant.
And talking about Deep Purple and Black Sabbath and about Ian Gillan that I've mentioned before, Ian Gillan, there are people like me who say that at his prime, at his best, Ian Gillan was probably the best vocalist of all time. Because when people talk about the top vocalists, they always mention two names. It's like God between humans, Freddie Mercury and Ronnie James Dio. I agree, but there are others who say also that Ian Gillan at his prime was at least equal to them. Do you agree?
No. I wasn't never a lover of Freddie Mercury's voice. I'm sorry. I loved Queen when Paul Rodgers sang with Queen. Paul Rodgers, as I said earlier, was always one of my all-time favourite vocalists. And David Coverdale took over from him because they have that bluesy, low, husky, bluesy voice that can melt your heart. And yet they have the range. As I said, you need that range to go up. I've got videos indoors of Queen with Paul Rodgers, and I love it. I wasn't a lover of the operatic Freddie camp sort of vocal. That's me. Probably all you Queen fans are probably killing me now and saying, you bastard. But I'm not. Wasn't. Freddie was brilliant as a front man. You couldn't beat him. One of the best in the world. One probably the best in the world. But I wasn't a lover of the voice. I'm very critical with vocalists. You can ask the bands I work with. Very critical. But Ian Gillan, great, fantastic vocal. But again, I like David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes singing with Deep Purple because of the bluesy, husky, and especially with the two of them singing together with Glenn doing the high parts, the harmonies. I'm a harmony guy. That's me. Ian Gillan was great. He still is great. He's the voice of Deep Purple, we know. But I still prefer my personal opinions and my personal choice of my ears listening to Stormbringer with that beautiful, warm voice. And that's me. So, yeah.
So what, at the end, what should we expect in a few days in Athens and Thessalonica? So Maiden United songs, okay. Only first album songs, Iron Maiden, or do we have any surprises in the list? Of course, we know already that we are going to have Alexander the Great.
Let's say yes, there are surprises. We don't want to give too much away because there wouldn't be surprises. But yes, you will hear the first album complete, the very first album complete. yes, there are songs from Killers. I personally have not been asked to learn or be part of Alexander the Great. But saying that, it might be, there will be surprises. There will be. We're really looking forward to it. As I said, all them years ago in Athens when I came with the Clairvoyants, that was really heavy. This is Maiden United. We want to feature the local musicians from Greece, from Athens, that are going to be joining us on stage. I've not met them yet, but I've heard some of the stuff. And I'm really, really excited to be listening to some of the songs, well, not all the songs that have been played on acoustic guitars with me and Rude Jolly, or me and Ricardo from Portugal on the last tour. They're 6-string acoustic guitars. I'm excited to hear how different the songs will sound with these fantastic musicians from Greece, with the different instruments. I'm intrigued. I'm just as excited as you, and I hope the fans will come. I hope they will sing. They will be behind us, and they can ask any questions they want. But yes, there are going to be surprises. I don't want to ruin it, but there will be surprises.
This is probably your second favorite United after West Ham United. Your second team is Maiden United.
Yeah.
So in that case, I will remind you what East Enders say. Yeah. So just don't think West Ham United till I die. You understand?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's not only one United then. It's Maiden United.
No, funny enough, as I said, I was talking to Steve Harris on the phone for over an hour the other day, and we spoke about loads of different things. We don't always discuss music. Mostly it's about West Ham. But I did mention Maiden United to Steve, and I'm trying to get him to listen. Now, he may have a few free days before the tour starts. I've asked Steve, have a listen to some of these acoustic songs from Maiden United. And he sent me a message back going like that. As a matter of fact, I'll show you the message. I'll show you the reply that he sent me this morning, which was this. I said to him, Steve, try if you get a chance, listen to The Trooper and Remember Tomorrow. And there's his reply. The hammers and a thumbs up. Can you see that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it. Yeah.
There's the thumbs up.
Nice.
Hammers. So hopefully I'll try and convert Steve to listen to Maiden United a bit more. He's a very busy man. He's always on the go. I don't know, but let's hope he'll give it a listen, because I love him to hear it.
Yeah. So until till Friday, let's say goodbye, good night. We'll meet soon, and you will have the chance to have some great Greek food. You'll have the chance to have some, meet and greet, let's say, with the Greek fans. Who, by the way, many bands say that the Greek fans are probably the greatest in the whole Europe. So along with South Americans, Brazilians, and the other guys, probably Greeks are the best in the world. So no matter how many we will be, it's like, it doesn't matter always the number, but the heart and the soul of the crowd, I think will be many. And you're going to love that night. It will be unforgettable, both nights in Greece. So, yeah. Until then, pleasure. And come on you, Dennis. Not come on you only. Well, come on you, Dennis.
That's very kind. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Love to everyone out there. I'm still trying to find, I looked today and I can't find it. I'm still trying to find my Iron Maiden Fan Club Greece T-shirt that was given to me when we did the gig with the Clairvoyants. I'm still trying to find it because I want to bring it with me to Greece. But if I can't, someone out there will bring me a shirt. I know they will.
Do you remember any Greek word? Any Greek word?
Yeah. It's an old shirt, yeah.
No. Do you remember? Can you say any Greek word?
No.
Speak Greek? Nothing at all.
No. I'm Canning Town, East London, West Ham. I only speak Cockney.
Okay. Though you have a Greek player in West Ham, you have a Greek defender, Mavropanos. So you have a Greek defender, you have a Greek player in West Ham.
Yeah, we got everyone now. It's just every now and again we lose. That's the problem. But listen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Come and see us. Come and ask. Have photos done. Questions. Don't matter. Beer, food, everything.
Of course.
Fantastic.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Pleasure and thank you for everything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.